Stage 8 was an eventful day, and I'm sad to say that I didn't see it because I was out doing my long ride today, so I'm only going off of highlights and race reports, so I'm sorry if I get something wrong or there's not much detail in this video today. But I had predicted a breakaway today, and it seems like a lot of the other people I was listening to didn't think it would be, so when I tuned in early on today, I think there was about 100K to go. There was a four-man breakaway, and they only had about 3 minutes. So I was like, wow, maybe my prediction was bad after all. But we saw it was a pretty strong group. We had DeGent, who's a known strong breakaway guy. So if he was in there, he wasn't going to be playing around. And then we saw Ben King was in there, who had some stage victories in the Vuelta last year. We saw Nicky Terpstra, Classics monster, and then they were joined, I guess, later on by DeMarchi from CCC. So it was a small but strong group, but when I was tuning in, I saw that Sunweb was pulling it at the front for Michael Matthews, and the gap was only about 3.5 minutes, so they weren't giving them much of a leash, and it didn't look great for the breakaway as of the time that I left to go do my ride. But in the end, it was DeGent. He was able to hold everybody off, and it was a spectacular ride by him, but maybe overshadowed by what happened behind. We saw again on the last climb of the day, it was one of those climbs where they had the bonus seconds, and this ended up being a huge thing. Now, the bonus seconds on the top of certain climbs are new for the tour this year, and it's really played out well. We saw it happen when Alaphilippe took the jersey originally. I think that was stage 3. We saw it come into play today. We saw Ciccone. The only reason he actually ended up in yellow was because he took some of those bonus seconds. So these bonus seconds have had a major impact. You got to give props to the ASO for trying something new. And, you know, with the way they've been impacting the race this year, you've got to expect that they'll do this again next year. The way it worked out was DeGent, he took the 8 seconds, but there were still 5 seconds available. So Alaphilippe, he put in a big attack. And 5 seconds wasn't quite enough to get the jersey back. So he kept on going. It was almost a replay of stage 3, only a little bit shorter way to go to the finish line. And he just needed one more second of gap to the yellow jersey. But you saw that Pinot jumped across and joined him. They worked together pretty well to put in some time on the rest of the peloton. And Alaphilippe, he was able to take back yellow. And Pinot was able to take some time on all of his rivals. Here are the stage results. You see DeGent took the victory. He was just 6 seconds ahead of Pinot and Alaphilippe, and Matthews took the group sprint behind. They were 26 seconds behind DeGent, which makes the rest of the field 20 seconds back on Pinot. And here we see in 9th, Bernal and Thomas in 10th. And Thomas went down in a crash that was caused by Mike Woods, and we saw that he had some help from his team, but he also had to do some of his own work to catch back up. But he looked pretty strong. We'll just have to wait and see if that crash causes any injuries. For now, he says he feels all right, but you never know. We'll have to see what happens. Here's the GC after stage 8. We see the Alaphilippe. He's back in yellow. He has 23 seconds over Ciccone. Pinot moves up to 3rd now. He's the best of the GC guys. And we see Thomas is 19 seconds behind Pinot now. So how much do we read into today? Pinot obviously looks strong, but it's only one day, you know. But Team Ineos, they haven't looked to be their strong, dominant self. But how much did the crash have to do with that? If Thomas hadn't crashed, maybe they could have been at the front more, controlling the peloton. Maybe Pinot would not have been allowed to go away. And who knows, they may have even brought Alaphilippe back as well. So that whole move may not have worked out. But you'll never know. We don't know if Ineos is just weak and that crash is just a sign of things to come, or if that was just one bad day. What about Pinot? Is this a sign that he's very strong, or is he just burning too many matches early on? We saw in the Giro last year that Yates was making all these attacks early on, trying to gain time before the time trial, and that ended up backfiring, and he exploded before Froome made that spectacular comeback. So, could this be a similar thing for Pinot? Is he going to pay for this later on? Too early to say, but if you ask me, I say he made maybe, what, a 15-kilometer effort, and he got 20 seconds out of it. So to me, that's worth it. We know he's going to lose some time in the time trial, but it is only a 27K time trial, so he doesn't need a whole ton of time. So he can just be happy with today, maybe try to conserve some effort tomorrow, and just try to put in the best time trial possible. and then he could still be within striking distance. He might, Thomas will probably gain some time on him, but he might still be the best placed of the other GC guys. So here's the profile for stage 9, and it looks very familiar. It's basically a shorter, maybe slightly less difficult version of stage 8. We see it's 170.5K. There are 3 categorized climbs, and again, that last categorized climb there has the bonus seconds. So if we see that the peloton is there together and there's not a breakaway ahead, there could be some battles for that time. So this is a difficult stage to predict. It looks like a breakaway stage on paper, but what we saw after today's stage, you've got to think that some of these GC teams are going to want to keep a tighter control on the race so something crazy doesn't happen again. You've got to think, especially Team Ineos, they have to sort of show their strength again. We haven't seen a whole lot from them in this race so far. They need to take control, make sure none of their guys lose any more time, and show, hey, we're still here, we're the best. You guys can have your little 20-second victories, but we're here to win the race. Also, with Alaphilippe back in yellow, you've got to think that Quick-Step is going to do some controlling of the race as well. However, as always, if the right breakaway goes up the road and there's just nobody in there who's a danger, why not let them go? It can sort of settle down the race a little bit if they let the right group go. But don't forget about Matthews and Sagan. We saw that both of them were in that reduced group today after a very difficult stage. So there's no reason to think they couldn't make it to the finish in this stage if the group stays all together. That's got to be a motivation for Sunweb to control the race again and try to get Matthews that elusive victory. Here we see the profile for the final 5K. There's a bit of a downhill and then it's perfectly flat, so it should be a very fast finish. That's got to be a good one for Sagan. And Sagan is going to be my pick for tomorrow. I think with all the craziness of today, there are just too many teams that are going to want to keep a tighter control on things. I think a reduced group is going to make it to the finish, and that's perfect for Sagan. He'll take another victory and put a tighter stranglehold on that green jersey. I'm not super confident in that pick. I'd say it's probably 60-40 that it comes down to a reduced sprint instead of a breakaway. But I'm going with the breakaway. I'm going with Sagan. I'll see you tomorrow.